Let me tell you why I say that and why this game was so important for Lamar. You know, Lamar's gone into the last 2 playoff games, and he scored less points than he did in this playoff game. Why is that so important, Michael? We talked about how limited that offense was prior to the offense they had been running with Lamar Jackson. And we talked about how limited that offense was. And now you start saying, oh, they put up 34 points against a very good Texans defense, a very good Texans coaching DeMeco Ryan. The last couple of times they came, they put up 3 points here, 20 points there. So you see, now this solidifies this offense. Lamar Jackson went into the playoffs, and he got knocked out of the playoffs because he was more one-dimensional. One-dimensional. And they said, let's stack the line of scrimmage and stop him. We talked about Lamar Jackson. When are you going to graduate, take that next level of passing the football so you can go deeper, you can go farther? Go get you an offensive coordinator, get some players around him, and let's use his arm a little bit more. They did that, and it produced what they needed to produce. I thought it was a perfect game for what this new offense is. Lamar sat in the pocket and waited and waited and waited to the last minute, and then he would shoot out of there and be the most dangerous dude you ever see with a football because he was shooting out of that pocket. And it was an incredible game. Threw 2 touchdowns, ran for 2 touchdowns. There's no other player that ever did that. 2 for 2 touchdowns, ran for two touchdowns, had over 100 yards rushing with 100-plus passer rating. Not in the history of the game. And speaking of the history of this game, this is the new history, I think, of the game for the quarterback position. Lamar Jackson, he's writing the history right now as we move forward. When you see guys like Josh Allen, who's putting up 32 pass touchdowns and 16 rush touchdowns. This is where this NFL is going. If your quarterback can't give me those hidden yards, I don't know if you could play quarterback in this league. Lamar Jackson showed up and played and showed why he's the MVP of this season.
Yeah, I think he played probably his most impressive playoff game for sure. I give him a 10 out of 10 for that performance. Especially the way they struggled in the first half. They struggled. I think he had 23 net passing yards at the half. They were winning by 1 point. They went into the halftime. They went into the locker room, made great adjustments. He comes out, throws it for another 120. He runs for another 50, 60 yards, a couple touchdowns, and he just dominated and controlled the game. Their defense played really well, contained that offense. They didn't even allow him a touchdown outside of that special teams touchdown, that punt return. So you got to give him a lot of credit for what he was able to do in this playoff game. He made accurate passes. He did it from the pocket. He did it with his legs. He took what the defense gave him. He didn't let anybody else dictate the narrative. You know, you hear he was a running quarterback, and then you sometimes get to the point where you want to just totally dispel that. And I'm just going to sit in the pocket and show them I can do this. He said, no, I'm doing whatever it takes to win this game. I'm going to run it. I'm going to throw it. I'm going to score it. We're going to win. And that was really impressive.
Yeah, before you go skip, one thing that I thought was fascinating, the touchdown to Nelson Aguilar. He could have ran that touchdown in. Boop, he shot that ball out. He could have easily ran that ball in, but he shot it out. And I thought that was saying, I'm passing first. Another thing that I thought, I'm a passer first. Another thing I thought was very interesting, coming out of that locker room at halftime, and they talked about it at the game, to a player, everybody talked about Lamar Jackson address or undress that offense, about the way they were performing. And he said, listen, that defense is playing great. I thought that was fascinating. We talked about, is he in or is he out? Because they were treating him kind of out with his contract. Now he gets the contract, and he is absolutely all the way in. I saw him one time get on one of the linemen, like, come on, man. You know, he got on him later on after they scored. Him and that lineman was in the end zone jamming together. I said, well, okay, that is a different Lamar right there.
Yeah, Michael, Lamar said after the game he would share his halftime remarks, except they were inappropriate for a media session because the words were not pretty and they didn't need to be pretty. So I appreciate how high you guys went on this scale of 1 to 10. I'm going to go to a 20 on this scale. I'm going to shatter the scale because this second half was huge. You're up against as hot and as talented a rookie quarterback as I have ever seen. C.J. Stroud was off the charts this year with what he pulled off. And he got his legs underneath him late in the first half, and it felt like it was going to be a real live football game in the second half. And to Lamar's credit, he read the riot act to his team at halftime, and then he came out in the second half, and it was like a microcosm of the year. He took the game over with his arm and his legs. And to Richard's point, in the second half, he goes 9 of 11 for just 100 yards. So it's not gaudy stats, but they're all effective passes. They're impactful passes, 2 of them touchdown passes. And then with his legs, he runs for another, as Richard pointed out, 50 yards. He had 5 carries for 50 yards and 2 more touchdowns in the second half alone as they took the game over. And as you guys know, the narrative on Lamar is, yeah, but he's 1-3 in the postseason. So he's got 2 MVPs if we're effectively giving him this year's MVP. And what? Well, at halftime, it was and what again at the highest level, where the pressure on him was just staggering to me because you're up against a hot, young, well-coached team that didn't know any better. And if Lamar had lost that game, you know what we'd be talking about right now? We probably would have led the show with it. You know, what's up with Lamar? And instead, he did look like the MVP in the second half without sensational, spectacular stats, just making all the right plays at the right time to be the driving force of a Ravens team that in the second half just shut CJ down. He was having a hard time reading, seeing, feeling, and because they got 4 guys who can get pressure, they were getting some serious heat on CJ that I think ultimately they'll be able to get on Patrick Mahomes this coming Sunday. Go, Richard.
Yeah, I agree. I think this defense deserves a ton of credit for everything you just said about how hot C.J. Stroud was. Bobby Sloan getting head coaching interviews because of how well this offense has performed, and they held them out of the end zone the entire game. They limited their big plays. You know, this offense has been known to be really explosive. They didn't allow any of that. They hit him. They stopped the run. They were effective. They deserve a ton of credit as well. Yeah,
and you know, last week they were talking about, if you look at it, Baltimore is still going to get better. They were talking about Mark Andrews possibly playing last week, and they told him, okay, take 1 more week. I say they were like, we don't know what we could play because that kid likely is doing pretty good. I said,
unlikely to bench him.
He is. I agree.
You see that touchdown that he called? It was like
just snatched it.
He just snatched it over that dude's head. Like, give me this touchdown.
And that's a good corner right there. That was stinging.
Right. I was like, whoa, that's a pretty good corner playing you. Hey, Mark, you sure your legs not? Okay? One more. Another one.
You know what I want to talk about, Irv?
What's that?
Because this offseason, like you know, time makes you forget sometimes. It makes you forget and lose sight. But you remember when the Ravens and Lamar were working out the contract details, all that speculation. But there were so many teams out there that just said, nope, we out. How many of those teams are sitting at home right now watching? I got to guarantee all of them. I got to guarantee all of them. So you had at Arthur Blank in the Atlanta Falcons and what they have at quarterback saying, hey,
you did.
Nope, we don't want him. Yeah.
Mind-blowing.
Mind-blowing. And nobody, they're not getting enough criticism for that. We're not talking about that enough, about how many teams saw this quarterback that was available. And whether you got to give 2 first-rounders or whatever you got to do, people done traded more for less. And they said, hey, we are out on this guy because we don't think, whatever you think of him. But now he's in the AFC Championship game the same year that you could have had.
Right. And what they did was put fuel in the tank of Lamar Jackson in that situation. Now, the reality is they were probably trying to save and hold the company line and all this, Skip and Sherman.
I bet.
You know, we're not letting anybody dictate that we give out or guaranteed contracts. So then the rhetoric became, there's no team interested in Lamar Jackson. Like, it makes no sense at all.
It made no
say that. It makes no sense, you know. And now, oh my God, you look at teams like you just mentioned, Atlanta Falcons. If they had a Lamar Jackson right now with that young talent, so yeah, that was a crazy thing that went on. But I love that he's having the last laugh.
Yeah, I must say so. Even the Ravens were indecisive about giving Lamar his money. I thought they dragged him through the mud, basically. And it really hurt him last year. It hurt him deep down because he loves that organization. And it got so ugly last year because he just couldn't figure out why they were treating him like that after all he had given to them. And they finally got through it. It should have happened a long time before that. Once they finally got through it, then to Michael's point, finally, Lamar was able to recommit to the Ravens body and soul. And now he is the Ravens to me.
But no question. And it goes back to they should have never put him through that. This is your franchise quarterback. This is a guy that's given everything, done things the right way. He should have never come down to the wire of having to deal with all this. But it goes back to the gripes that you heard. He's injury prone. He's a running quarterback. He didn't miss a game, Skip. He didn't miss one. Didn't miss one.
Game. I mean, he got beat up last year. He had some issues.
Right. But they had said the last couple years he had missed 10 games. And so that was what people were saying. He's injury prone. But I don't hear that same rhetoric about Joe Burrow, for example. You know, Joe has missed some games and finished some seasons. And I don't hear that same rhetoric when it was time to get his money, that, oh, man, you know, he style of play or anything like that. So it just leads to so many questions about how people see Lamar Jackson in this league and why they see him that way.
And listen, when I listen to Lamar right now, you know, let's be real, Lamar sounds different. He sounds like he's been working with someone. I'm sure from what I understood, they've always wanted Lamar to, you know, to dig in and be more of that quarterback that they can promote and push out there. And from what I see, he's starting to really work on how he interviews and everything. It really looks like he's bought all the way in because they've given him the team. But even talking about them not buying into him prior to, I need them to raise their hand on their own missteps there. That it was them that took this long to get him the kind of help that he needs to do what he's doing right now. Now they gave him a system. Remember, it was Mark Andrews was his primary. He plays inside out. He was throwing those balls to Mark Andrews in the middle field. Now that's Zay Jones. Zay Jones is one of the best after-the-catch receiver he had in the National Football League. That guy Isaiah Likely right there, he has more yards after the catch than almost anybody in the National Football League. So they've taken what they've done with Mark Andrews and put some explosiveness to it and made a difference.
Yeah. So can we all agree that Lamar is now a passing quarterback who can just gut you with his legs when necessary, right? When it's there, he will take it. But he is a pass-first quarterback. Yeah. He's just a playmaker.
He's a playmaker. Yeah. I mean, he can do it all. He don't limit him. You know, he can do things that only a few people on this earth can do. Period. So yeah, he can throw.
And look, is his throwing motion a little unconventional? I'll give you that, but he flicks darts, like he just flicks it, and he's so accurate with it that it is lethal. It doesn't look like Tom Brady or Peyton Manning. It just works at the highest MVP level. That's all I know.
Yeah, it gets there. It jumps off his hands, and it gets there.
It does. Yeah. It is accurate, and that's all in the end that matters. Okay, Baker Mayfield was pretty accurate yesterday at Detroit, but not quite accurate enough in the very bitter end. Although Mike Evans said after the game he called Baker criminally underrated after the Bucs gave the Lions all they wanted. We break it down next. Thanks for watching, Undisputed fans. Do you want more highlights from the show? Make sure to click that subscribe button for all the exclusive content from Undisputed.